You know which country I've heard has the biggest problem with people peeing in public? Do you know?
US?
France.
Really? You can go to the world's most developed countries like US and have a bad experience like India. So today, dosto, we're gonna react to one of the viral British Indian posts about India who calls India a dump after been there as a tourist for 3 years, and this is about the global reputation he's making about India and what we think after traveling to different parts of Asia, because he's saying that at less cost you can go to countries like, for example, Thailand, Vietnam. We are currently in Thailand, by the way, and he's saying you get more for your buck in countries like that, and why India is called dump by him. Let's read.
Heading out there at the peak of COVID, driven by wanderlust, I've just finished up on my 3-year adventure around India. As much as Indians would love to be splashed in praise, there's a hard truth to India which no Indian wants to hear, especially not if it's not balanced out with some sort of positivity to offset the negative comments. India is a dump, and Indians objectively treat it like a dump. The roads suck, the infrastructure is crumbling, every other corner is riddled in filth, and there's no such thing as civic sense out there. The poverty gap is astounding, and it's becoming more expensive to live in than any other better and well-developed nations in Asia now.
First of all, I want to talk about here the cost. So some parts about the cost are true. Just talking about the cost here, for example, we are in Thailand, it's called Chiang Mai. We wanted meal with chicken and rice, different. 3 entrees we got here, and it was for 150 baht, and that is almost like $5 for almost food worth of 3 people. We got in a restaurant. It's like a dhaba style restaurant. A lot of digital nomads here. And in India, if you want chicken and rice for 2 people, I think you will spend minimum 400 to 500 rupees. And so it'll be way more. Definitely. With rice, adding on 500, 700, around $10. Here in $5, we had meal for 2. So cost-wise for food and for taxi, I think it's kind of similar to India. Like here, I do like Chiang Mai taxi $3 to $5 and like 400 to 500 rupees. In India also, you do in Mumbai, you do taxi from one part. In smaller cities also, this is the rate. So taxis, it's same, but food cost, it is way cheaper in some parts of Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, as compared to India.
I mean, I don't think it's fair necessarily to compare the conditions well, first of all, I think this writer probably hasn't been to the less developed parts of like Vietnam and Thailand, for example. Because of course, if you go to a major city like Bangkok, or Hanoi or something like that, it's going to be more developed, right? But I know people who've taught English in these countries in the more developing, which by the way is like a problematic term, but like the areas with much less infrastructure. And they definitely exist in Thailand and Vietnam. But I also just don't think it's fair to compare because India just has way more people, and a much higher population density than those other countries. So, of course, it's going to be dirtier and stuff because there's just so many people, But I think it's wrong to call it a dump. And I don't feel like, maybe some people aren't respectful, but I don't think it's fair to say, oh, the people treat it like a dump and they know it's a dump.
I agree as well. I think generalizing a country is really bad. We went to beautiful places like Kerala. We went to beautiful and amazing places like Jaipur. Yeah. I was amazed. Did you feel what he felt? That people throw pan on the streets and it accidentally comes to you?
No.
You never saw it?
Yeah, no.
So generalizing is bad. I think if you just talk about the worst side and call it towards the entire country is so mean.
Yeah, and just not accurate and kind of racist, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even though he's Indian himself.
British Indian.
But still, you can still be racist against your own, background, right?
Yeah. Okay, let me read next. When you bring up these criticisms of India, locals either strongly agree or are in the camp of, we just got our independence, we are still a baby nation for the 5th wealthiest economy with nearly 1.6 billion people and quite clearly astonishingly rich elite class. This is no excuse.
Okay, so he points out right there that there's 1.6 billion people in this country. And to be fair, I've never been to China, but again, the people I know who have studied abroad in China had very similar like comments about
Really?
China, like in terms of people not being respectful, lots of like spitting, things like that, it being like dirty. So I feel like maybe that's a more fair comparison, again, because there are just so many people in these countries. And, especially India. India is even more densely populated, right? So again, he's admitting that. And then he says an astonishingly rich elite class. But like, he's not pointing out that there's way more people who have basically nothing, right? And so it's really hard to make an area clean if like that's your home, right? Like a public space, right?
That is true. I agree. Like, I think you can go to the world's most developed countries like US and have a bad experience like India. Let me tell you, I went to New York one time. I was in a subway and I was on my phone. A guy literally like comes to me like, and then I kind of thought he's homeless maybe. And he comes to me and like, I'm like, oh, I was on my phone lost. He's like,
He spotted you?
yeah, it felt like that. It was not like coming, like it was not, I didn't see the saliva coming
feel
out,
it?
but it was like the expression, like something like that. So you can literally have these experiences in the US with world's biggest economy, most powerful country. You can have these anywhere. If I just talk about that and generalize towards the whole US, it won't be fair either.
Also, you know which country I've heard has the biggest problem with people peeing in public? Do you know?
US?
France.
Really? So most people pee in public in France.
Apparently it's like known for like having that big problem, like people peeing in public. So
And that's not highlighted enough. I think
Yeah.
the whole America and like Europe thinks that India is a dump because of this reputation, but they don't like publicize these experiences in their countries.
But I also think that people, like, honestly, I don't know, maybe this is wrong to say as someone who's not Indian, but it also feels like Indians themselves a lot of them perpetuate this reputation of India as being like a dump or as being, just like this person. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I've talked to a fair number of either like Indian Americans, who maybe they didn't grow up there, but like they'll, say things like that. I feel like there's a big disconnect between a lot of like Indian Americans and India for sure. I don't know. Would you agree?
I think I would agree as well. Like, I think a lot of people who come from India, when they appreciate US, they don't show much pride in India. I think it's changing. Like, as our leaders are stronger. I showed you the Jay Shankar clip, right? Our foreign minister clip when India started to buy oil from Russia. How strong image he portrayed. And people feel proud and express themselves more on social media now. Here, I want to share a good example. Like, if I meet ABCDs, like American-born confused ACs, or like Australian-born confused ACs, Canadian-born confused ACs, like the pride for them in calling themselves Indian is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
Non-existent. So, like, I see so many of them. Like, if I ask them what languages, if I bring up anything related to India, they would just say my parents are from there. They have minimum acceptance of being Indian.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like I talk to them how many languages speak. They say 4. I thought Hindi might be one of them. But in many cases, as I'm traveling in hostels here, it's not even there.
It's all like European
Yeah.
languages. Oh.
So I'm like, sometimes I'm like shocked, like Indian, how much Indian is in them as ABCDs.
And I'm sure a lot of it's, internalized racism. I'm sure they've heard this kind of thing, like bad things about India from the white people where they live. And maybe they've been treated badly by the white people where they live. So, and to be fair, in Bollywood movies, they often, or at least the older ones, they often show them like doing the big song in Europe somewhere, in Spain and Switzerland and things like that. So, it seems like this kind of internalized racism or like kind of self-hatred a little bit. Like it runs pretty deep, I feel like.
But is it self-hatred? Like you're not born in India. You are like basically of a different country now if you're born and brought up.
Fair enough. However, let's be honest, even if you're born in America or Australia or the UK, like the majority of the people who live in those countries will see you as Indian, correct? Or will at least see you as brown.
Yeah, brown maybe.
So I don't know. I feel like it's all connected. I think it's really hard to disentangle those things.
Okay. This is so interesting because they want to call themselves as just Americans or Canadians, Australians, as compared to Indian Americans, Indian Canadians, Indian Australians.
Well, that's another complicated thing too, because I think I understand why they want to say that. And I think that's a very valid argument of how come only white people who are born here get to be called American or get to be called Australian. You know what I mean? Like how come, right? So I think that's a valid point.
Like other people don't get to call like French American. Like you're probably like German American.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously my family, like they immigrated further generations back, but still like nobody is questioning my like race or whatever, or nobody's asking me where am I really from,
Good point. Okay, now heritage is completely neglected with graffiti and spit rotting food soiling the architecture that Indians claim to be so proud of. We're even getting as much as slight explanation on what is it that I'm looking at becomes a chargeable activity. Hotels, even the basic standard in areas where property sits for $300 a month, they're charging their Firangi tourist customers a whooping $30 to $40 a night, offering subpar service and standard to that which you would get in a place like Thailand. Like,
wait,
I think
what's Firangi?
Firangi is like foreigner. So I think I agree with that as well. I mean, even as like just Indian, I travel with UPI, I behave like an Indian because I'm Indian, right? I've lived, so I'm just saying that I'm like, oh, UPI kya hota hai? I don't go like a foreigner to India, right? Mm-hmm. I know everything. I have UPI, I carry my phone with Google Pay. So even with that, I know like 50% of the Uber drivers ask you extra. They're like, nahi, cancel kar do, right? I've seen that so many times in Bangalore, so many times in Amritsar. I think maybe less in Mumbai, but like other cities I've seen for sure.
You're saying because they can tell that you...
No. They do it for everyone. I'm just saying that this is not just...
Oh, I see.
Yeah, overcharging can be for even Indians. So he's not an exception here.
Okay, but I'm pretty sure scams happen here, and they also happen pretty much like everywhere.
Really?
Yeah. Like the countries where I've lived, a longer time, Jordan or Morocco, they happen all the time. I think it happens even in the quote unquote like developed, countries. Like there's always tourist scams. Like that's just how it is. Like
true.
Or just any like scam. Like I feel like that's pretty much how it is. I mean, I guess you're not as likely to get scammed with a taxi in like America, I guess, or some of these other countries. But in general, there's always going to be a scam.
Yeah, I mean, but he's talking about even hotel and like living scams. So I think for that, you can make a friend, like a local friend. I even go to Mexico, find a local and go with them. Like, how hard is that?
But there were scams there, right?
Yeah, there are scams there
See,
too.
there's scams like...
everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I, for example, when I go to India, I use my Indian phone number. If you go to Mexico, you can quickly buy a Mexican phone number, make a Mexican local friend, ask them if this price is right, walk with them, take help. These people are friendly everywhere. These scams can happen anywhere.
Also, again, I just want to point out that the people are like way nicer in, again, these like quote unquote, I find that in general the people are way nicer in these quote unquote developing countries than in like, especially the European countries. Just because, I don't know, like a lot of those cultures are a lot more communal, they're a lot more collectivistic, and they're just more, like people are more interconnected, whereas like in Western culture, we're a lot more individualistic and just kind of focus on ourselves and getting stuff done. And hospitality is just not as important as in, Indian culture, Thai culture, Arab culture, Mexican culture,
yeah.
right?
For example, in India, when someone used to come at our home, like asking for way, like tell us where, like address, like 555 houses, I used to sometimes take in my Activa, drop them there. Like a lot of people do that. You can go to Golden Temple, just hitchhike. You will be taken to places for free.
Yeah.
There's so many.
I actually did that in Morocco too. Yeah, like a guy offered me on his motorcycle, and like I was kind of scared at first because that's not like normal in the U.S. But he like, to be honest, he like I could tell that he had like a disability with his legs. So I'm like, okay, he can't do anything. So I went with him and it was fine and it was really nice. And then he invited me to dinner. Remember when we were in Germany and that Syrian cab driver was like, I spoke with him in Arabic and then he's like, come to dinner with, like, meet my family. Like, and that happened in Jordan too. Like, I just feel like a lot of these non-Western cultures are just like a lot friendlier and warmer. So, okay, maybe it's like less developed or whatever, but the people are just really kind and just some of the nicest people you'll meet.
Yeah, they just don't want to appreciate the collectivism of India. Those who comment, they just want to talk about negative and just go deep into the negativity.
And just also, I don't know, like, not to gaslight this person, but I don't recall seeing graffiti and things on like the Taj Mahal or the Amber Fort, or like, I don't know where this person's talking about, because I don't recall seeing any of that.
Yeah. Okay, I've just landed in Vietnam, a nation that should be in complete despair after its history with poverty and communism, contrary to India. Needless to say, like other destinations in Asia that are significantly poorer than India, it does not feel...
It sure does feel nice.
It sure does feel nice, being able to walk on pavements again, being able to sit in a proper taxi without having some random driver try and harass you with more money. Being able to grab without having the driver literally spitting on the road and specks of his spit landing on your feet. Being able to get good quality food that's ladly in soy.
Ladled in soy and palm oil.
Ladled in soy and palm oil mixed in with cancer-causing MDH spices.
God.
Okay, while whilst, how do you pronounce it? Whilst.
Yeah, whilst.
Whilst I don't regret my travels across India.
For the rose-tinted glasses are off. I sure as hell won't be going back. Brighter days ahead, hopefully.
So he stayed 3 years. It's like, if he had such bad experiences, he can give up in few months.
Yeah, I find that kind of strange. I assume he had to be there for some reason. Or he's just really rich and or I don't know, has some digital nomad thing set up. But he just sounds very spoiled and very I think he's only been to Vietnam and Thailand and Europe and India. I don't think he's been to other places.
Myanmar has similar stuff.
Or just
right? Right?
Yeah, or the Arab world or the or Latin America or things like that. I think actually his main thing is I don't know. I feel like he has a very closed-minded perspective, and I feel like he's not appreciating so much of the beauty of India and Indian culture. And again, I just suspect that comes from this deep-seated internalized racism. I really think so.
Yeah, it's really sad to see as an Indian, and I think we need to be more proud in taking action and raising our voice whenever you see something against India happening publicly, which spoils the image of a country. And as soon as we, speak for ourselves and share the positivity with our country and how proud we feel, the reputation will change and more visitors who come to India. I see, I went to Mexico recently. There were so many people who lived 5 months in India, and I was feeling so happy. I interviewed recently a girl who studied in India and interviewed.
Yeah.
People need to see that side as well.
Yeah. I also just want to say I've heard a lot of stories of like Indian children living in America taking, Indian food in their lunchbox for lunch and then opening it up, and then the white kids are like making fun of it, like, oh, that looks weird, oh, that smells weird. Well, Indian kids, your food is way better than theirs, okay? Like 1,000 times better than theirs. Like they're just eating like shitty like turkey sandwiches. It's literally just white bread with like turkey in it.
With juice, with canned orange juice, with 30 grams of sugar.
Yeah.
Which is like so concentrated and bad for health. They literally get $3 meal in high school. We at least take our own food in tiffin.
Yeah.
So you used to
that
see like
food also tastes way better.
you used to see Indian kids in your high school bringing food.
Yeah. But my high school honestly had a lot of Indians, so I mean, I'm sure that somebody probably made fun of them. I didn't see that happen, but I've just heard a lot of stories of just not even just Indian kids, just like immigrant kids in general in America. Like the kids will make fun of their food. And so my big message to those kids is your food tastes way better. And when those kids are older, they're going to be going to all the restaurants by immigrants from your country.
Yeah, so true. Okay, that was it.
Just don't, especially just don't trust white people with like food. Just like they don't have any sense of flavor. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Awesome. That was it. Thank you so much for watching, and let us know what you feel in the comments below.
And be proud of your heritage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.